I couldn't be more embarrassed for Major League Soccer for making the decision that winning does not matter. We start in bad weather, we finish in horrible weather, and we have nobody watching. I don't know if you like being a lab rat, but that's what we are. We are simply trying to facilitate soccer. We have married ourselves to mediocrity. The business of football is always going to be a business. All right, there you are. Here I am. Once again, this is Unleashed. I'm Eric Wynalda. Really want to say thank you, first and foremost, for all the people who are tuning in and been fans of the show so far. We've had a lot of fun doing it, and apparently we've hit some nerves, and we've also enlightened some people in regards to what actually happens in the administration of soccer in this country. All right, so I got a bone to pick. I'm just going to get this out of the way, all right? Because it really is, it's real. I do have receipts, so I'm not making this shit up. But it is kind of frustrating to be me right now. For those of you who don't remember, I did have a very unsuccessful plea to be the president of U.S. Soccer, and I lost that to Carlos Cordero. I had a pretty good start, and then things got a little bit weird. The percentages didn't add up, but I learned a lot in that process. I learned a lot about how soccer happens in this country and who's in on it and who's on the outside looking in. Who wants to see the soccer get better and who wants to stay right where they are, status quo. I've got this figured out. I'm making a lot of money off of the game. Why in the hell would I change that? I know who you guys are. We've probably met in person, and I'll keep your names out of it as of today. When the book comes out, sorry, not sorry. It'll all be in there, and people will know what a corrupt person you happen to be. So, get your affairs in order before that all happens, and that'll be coming out just before the World Cup. Looking forward to that. I have an operating title at the moment. I'm starting to lean towards my view from under the bus. It could be WTF, Wynalda Talks Football. It could be WTFU, Wynalda Talks Football Unleashed. I don't know yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Collecting all the information has been fun. Now, here's what I need people to know, all right? I'm not just this blowhard that comes onto this show and just wants to tear everything down because I just don't like the way it works. There was a lot of work that went into that campaign. There was a lot of really smart people who helped me understand how it works, how we could make it better, did the numbers. I'm not a math guy, but I had people that invented, essentially, the Champions League. I had high execs on Nike that were on my board. We had people that had done this for a long time and understood exactly where the tripwire was, how we could make it better, and these are the people that were advising me. A little secret. I had no intention, zero intention of staying president of U.S. Soccer very long. My whole goal and my agenda was to get in, fix everything, and employ the people or encourage the people who really should be doing this work to stay on board. I should have probably shared that with them at the time, but I think they were pretty hungry to get in there, especially that guy who I can't tell you what company he worked for, but this guy's job is essentially to figure out how non-for-profits work at a far greater scale than what we did at U.S. Soccer. Do the history on that. I mean, the same people that ran Bill Clinton's foundation ran our foundation. I bet you didn't know that. Things start to add up when you say stuff like that. And a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear that there is corruption. And they don't want to hear that they're the people that are really pulling the puppet strings of who does what in this country and why essentially are doing it for the wrong reasons or they just don't know soccer. All right. The first thing that I need to get off my chest is in my 5 points that I submitted to U.S. Soccer, which was shared with Major League Soccer. The main points were very clear. I was trying to figure out the pay-to-play system, trying to come up with some solutions that were going to make us a better soccer nation, but helping people understand that if you're paying for the academy, you're really not in an academy. That's not how an academy works. All right, a solidarity payment, usually when the player who has been developed, who is invested in your child and has put the money into it and the understanding of we're going to develop this player into an asset that at some point will find his or her way into the system. And at that point, there is a fee that is paid to the academy, which is called training compensation. You don't get the training compensation if you've already received it. So just understand that from point one. Most of the academy systems that exist right now in Major League Soccer, when I first went to them 8.5 years ago, they didn't understand what all this was about. They were still functioning in a very different way. I'm glad that you read my presentation. Thank you for reading the presentation. You're implementing a lot of the things that I felt were necessary at that time to make us a better soccer nation. Outside of what just came out a couple weeks ago, we're no longer keeping score. I don't know if you caught on that. It's all about development. It's about metrics. It's about the kid that made 99 passes, 98 of them backwards, but hey, he had an unbelievable success rate passing the ball around. But they're not going to keep score anymore. They're just going to go off performance. Like this is a concert that we, as the crowd, get to decide whether the band sucked or not. And then it just comes down to whether we just liked that band. I make a lot of music analogies in these deals, but I couldn't be more embarrassed for Major League Soccer for making the decision that winning does not matter. You want to marry yourself to mediocrity and all of the other mechanisms that you've created, that's fine, but don't fuck up our kids, okay? Don't do that. Don't start telling them that winning doesn't matter or putting them in situations where they're playing against an opposition, which is a manufactured game in front of their parents, and then be surprised when they get put into a real professional situation with a crowd. How about that? People actually watching, booing, cheering, right? They're saying that they're actually going to get on your back if you make a bad pass, and you're surprised that they can't handle that? You thought you handled the technical part, but the mental part of this game is just as important. And all those of you think that playing for your high school is irrelevant, it's actually not. It's actually a really good way to learn about what it's like to play in front of crowds and noise and be able to figure out how to do your work. Separate subject, and I don't want to get off on a tangent. The second part, the pay to play, was what it was, but it was about the culture. And obviously, that part is going in the wrong direction with the decisions that are being made about winning not mattering. I don't know. The last time I checked, we're American. And the last phrase in our anthem is "Home of the Brave." Can we do that? Can we just, if there's a game plan, call it "Home of the Brave" and be brave, and actually engage in situations where we actually are trying to win the game, as opposed to just play it. And then we take our players, we say, we've developed this kid, and they leave and they go to a foreign land where they don't speak the language, and they don't pat you on the back after you've had a bad game. They actually don't look at you. Then they might even say something pretty rude. There is no, hey, go get them next time over there. And that mentality is certainly killing us. Okay, you heard me talk about this ad nauseum, but one of the 5 points was for us to change the schedule. In Major League Soccer. And promotion and relegation was something that I addressed, but I also understood, again, this is not me trying to force it down their throat, that an explanation was warranted. People need to understand that under these circumstances, if you're buying into a franchise for $500 million, you'd like to know that you're going to be around for a while. You like to know that this is what you're buying into, and I could immediately be eliminated from the big show simply because we couldn't get our business right in year one. I get it. There's a bit of unfairness to that. But of all the responses that I've seen when I talk about promotion relegation and or the schedule change and all of the implementing that kind of structure and the impact that it would have on our game, a lot of confusion there. A lot of people just don't get it. I'm going to get into a couple of people who have responded, and I'm going to try and help them, or at least guide them to understand that, hey, smarter people than me have done the numbers and figured out that all the mistakes of all those years and the geographical constraints and circumstances that we have, they all factor in. But there is no yes and no to this. There is a lot of gray, but there is a solution that will be extremely beneficial to our soccer nation if we figure that out. What I've also been enlightened is that most of the people who call themselves supporters and or fans of sports in the United States, and we've always been told, oh, we got this great mentality towards winning. That's what the rest of the world believes. Rest of the world, you're wrong. We don't. We just love to be entertained. That's it. I mean, I look at it like if this were the party that you were trying to get into, right? This is the party of your industry. Every power broker in your industry is inside those doors at that party. And that's where you want to be, right? You want to rub shoulders with these people and talk to them because you want your business to get better. You want to create. That's not who we are, unfortunately. All you people want to be is in the room. You want to go in and you want to grab your glass of champagne and wait for the hors d'oeuvre guy and watch the party happen and say, ooh, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so. And yep, there they are. And I'm here. I'm important. You're important, I guess, but you're certainly not getting any better. The last one was equality for the men's and women's national teams. So that's the 5, if you've been paying attention. That was important because I played for the national team. I understand how this all works, and it certainly isn't your only paycheck. So making it equal pay, making it understand, because some of that stuff doesn't add up. I get it. The Women's World Cup doesn't garner the kind of sponsors that the Men's World Cup does, and that is the kitty that we've been tapping into. And kudos to the boys, man, because they actually, am I allowed to say that? Do I have to say men, or is somebody going to get offended? That's okay. Be offended. I don't care. The boys have actually done a pretty good job of kicking some money back because of the sponsors that exist and making this a much more feasible option for our athletes and to entertain the idea of equal pay. I had a lot of solutions there. I'm not going to get into the weeds, but they essentially did that one first, which isn't surprising. I don't think it was my idea, but we do have a woman who is the president of U.S. Soccer, and I think that she put that at the top of the agenda. It was the easiest thing to actually push through. So thank you, Cindy Cohen, for actually doing that, because it was a very good idea, regardless of whose it was, and it's going to have a great impact on how our national team works and just the overall understanding. But make no bones about it. The women are better than us. They've always been better than us. And they will continue to be better than us until we decide to figure things out and get better, as I said before a couple times already, as a soccer nation. Now, the schedule. Here we go. Boy, you people have really got a hard time with this. You really don't understand it. We're going to draw some lines for you, all right, at the latitude and longitude and all that stuff, to let you know that we understand that it gets colder in New England than it does in Miami. Yeah, we understand that's factual. I don't think anybody's trying to refute that. But what we are saying is that it is possible to have a league that exists and is on the timelines as everybody else. Now, here's the reminder, okay? This is the part that I think you need to understand. At the origin of this league, in its inception, for that matter, we tried to do things a little differently. So when we come back and we say we need to get back on the calendar, or we need to get on the calendar, this isn't a novel idea. The novel idea happened in 1996 when a bunch of football guys said, how does this work for us? If we give you some money, this, we're not going to start at the same time. We're not doing that. What, you want to start in August? No way. Okay, let's do it differently. And that's what happened. Lamar Hunt, love you to death. The Clark Hunt and the family. Dan as well. The Crafts. At the inception of all of this was all about a league that was going to be controlled by the NFL. They certainly didn't want us being any kind of adversary. This was a kumbaya idea that we were all going to work together. And to be fair, this was a bunch of NFL owners at that time that wanted their NFL stadiums occupied so that they could make money. And that was one of the things that was really near and dear to them. Now, we're at a stage now where some could say that the league has grown leaps and bounds. We are in our own stadiums for the most part. There's only a few places that are still sharing with other organizations and or sports. And the truth is that we're ready. We're ready to engage in the true business of football, soccer. Up until this point, it's really been problematic. Ask any GM who will be honest with you. And say how's that going for you when you have to when you get interest of a player that's actually doing fairly well. It wants to go to Europe and no longer wants to be a part of Major League Soccer, and they want to move in June and July. And then you don't have the mechanisms in place. Your coach and your GM certainly don't have the ability to move things around and find a player that fast in the middle of the season. And next thing you know, you might lose some games, or there's no continuity and it just looks a little bit off. And anybody that's been a part of this league for as long as I have, you understand that it really does matter to start getting your act together around July and August if you're going to make a playoff push. Now, the schedule itself and the way that and the timing of everything needs to be what they just recently discussed. Apparently, and I've done a previous podcast on this, an independent group called Sportico decided to independently interview 29 of the participants in Major League Soccer and ask them if they would be in favor of a schedule change. And it was a super majority. It was actually 93% believe that would be in the best interest of the sport. Now, for those of you who are struggling with this, these are really smart people who have done the same work that we did 8 years ago to figure out that it is a necessary component of growth of the sport. Now, here's the current situation, and this is what you're struggling with. We start in bad weather, we finish in horrible weather, and we have nobody watching. That's it, in a nutshell. We start at a time that made sense a long time ago to the NFL owners because they were just finishing up their football season in February because that's when everything is all about the Super Bowl. And then it's over. Can we start then? Well, let's just start right there in March, and that's what we've been doing. Unfortunately, we've been ending our season in December up against college football, which is a monster, and everything that is happening right now in college football with all the attention it's getting, with all of the compelling television that they are able to create, a lot of controversies, a lot of reasons to watch. More people are watching college football than ever before. The NFL, still a monster. It's still something that occupies all of our televisions on a Sunday, and nothing is really going to change. And that starts, as we all know, in September and finishes up with the Super Bowl. And pretty much everybody is locked in on that in the United States. That's just the way it is. This other thing, I don't know if you've ever seen it, the World Series, even though it's really not the World Series. Baseball at its best. It's now going. It used to be Mr. October, right? It's actually Mr. November because they have changed their playoff system. They have more properties. They have more content to sell to the networks, and they end up finishing this thing well into November. We almost get to Thanksgiving with that stuff. What does that equate to? Nobody watching soccer. Well, not nobody, but just the diehards. If I do the numbers for you, and I said, all right, in 1996, how many people were watching an MLS game, in the weekly game? We used to put one on TV. We'd put it on the ABC, ESPN platform, and about 151 to 160,000 people would watch on a good day. On a good day. Do the numbers last week. Same. Exactly the same. Nothing has changed at all in the viewership of when people watch soccer. And the Apple deal, which is falling apart, unfortunately, it seemingly was a good idea, but don't be naive. Don't for one second think that this wasn't the same guys that started our fucking league that are trying to figure out if this is going to work for the NFL. I don't know if you like being a lab rat, but that's what we are when it comes to the bigger sports. The only way that we can change that is for us to change the schedule, to stop starting our season in horrible weather and finishing it in a crapshoot at best. I mean, it depends on where we finish. We don't have a signature Super Bowl. We don't get to say, oh, we're going to San Diego. It'll get good weather there. Or we're going to Vegas. We're going to LA. And then two teams from somewhere else. And it's such a monster. It doesn't matter. The Philly fans and Pittsburgh fans. Well, Pittsburgh hasn't been in the Super Bowl for a long time, right? It's been about 20 years. But you get my point. Those fan bases will go to wherever it is because it is the pinnacle of all sports to go to a Super Bowl. And it needs to be in a warm climate. So it finds itself in California, Texas, or Florida, whatever. You get it. And that's the way we do things. Now, when you look at our sport, we've never been able to create a signature final that allows our sponsors, we can get them first. Before they dump all their money into the other sports, we actually get first bite at the apple. So all of the people, that was actually no pun intended, but you actually get the opportunity to sit in front of the people who are going to spend money on sports and actually create a scenario where you can actually with a straight face say, this is compelling television. Look at the stories that we've created. Look who's in this competition, and people will gravitate to that. Now, look, the season would probably end in June. Now, anybody else who also understands this sport as a GM, and I'm talking to you now, you know how hard it is to even get your season ticket holders to show up over the summer. It's either one of two things. It's too hot or they're doing something else. They have lives. They go on vacations. They don't always look at soccer as a treat, especially when it gets so humid and hot in July. So why don't we avoid that? Why don't we end our season in May? Now, what else happens in those months? Everybody wants to come over here. All of the big dogs, right? You've got the Italian teams, the Spanish teams, the Real Madrids. They train at UCLA, by the way, in case you didn't know that. That's usually where they come out to do their preseason. And then they do a bunch of exhibition matches across the country to do what? To build their brand. Now, what if we are able to actually take part in that? In our stadiums, to partner with these entities who want to come and play against them. That's probably the single best way for you ever to garner interest from somebody who's maybe even coming to their first ever game. Columbus, you have an amazing stadium. Why don't you do some invites and do an international friendly when you're not in the middle of the season? Treat it as a preseason game for yourself. Have the audacity to think that you might be able to play with them, even though you're right in the middle of your preseason and you're getting guys healthy and back on the field. But you're going to have a very captive audience who are being exposed maybe to soccer, high-level soccer for the first time. There's your marketing plan. That's it. And people will want to come. Hey, that wasn't bad. I really enjoyed that. Maybe I'll be a season ticket holder. Maybe I'll show up. When does the season start? Oh, it starts late August, early September, or August. Who knows? We don't have this all chiseled in stone at this point, but that's a better starting point. Now, for those of you who are worried about playing in bad weather, you're fucking doing it anyway. I don't know what your problem is. I mean, it's like we only have one game that happens in December, but the realities of playing a schedule where everybody plays everybody, which is actually, to me, a very vital component of this, that you can build this thing to make sure that, okay, you had to play 3 away games in a row. I get it. You're going to travel there anyway at some point. Maybe you save money and you stay down there for a little bit. Maybe you do the Orlando, Miami, Atlanta swing. And those are the first 3 games of your season. We have enough markets in this league now that the weather is going to cooperate. When it's cold, you're going to be fine. I get it, Minnesota. I get it, Toronto. I get it, New England, New York, even DC. I don't want you to play in February either, but there's a couple of advantages there. February is probably the shortest. It is the shortest month in our calendar. We probably have a couple of games in there just coming out of the break. But the most important part is you will be able to finish this season in a window that works, not just for us and the weather, but the networks. You're going up against the indoor sports, right? Hockey and basketball. If you don't think we can't beat them, then you've got some sort of inferiority complex, but because we can. That's where we are. And we would have the ability to not only build into our schedule the end of the Open Cup, which is such a problem for everybody. Why? Because of the fucking calendar. They're trying to figure out where they're going to go. They have a lot of GMs that are against it. So you've got MLS balking on this every single year, saying we don't want to take part in that. I've argued the point that they're just afraid to get beat by a lower division team. But the truth is they do have some logistic problematic issues there. And those could all be overcome with the change of the schedule. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of watching these poor saps in their 5 layers of clothes and some gloves holding on to a hot chocolate trying to watch an MLS Cup final. As a player, I certainly don't want my legacy determined on whether or not I slipped because it's cold and I don't have the appropriate gear to play on ice. Look, I get it. Football loves that shit. They love it. They say, well, what's the problem? This is what happens when you have NFL people saying, well, what's the problem playing it? Okay, our ball is round and it's on the ground the whole time. It's not being thrown or handed off to somebody. And our games are very, they're longer, right? And there's a lot more going on. And there's actually, when you look at a 90-minute game, the ball is in play 80 minutes of the time. This isn't football, a 60-minute game where there's actually 9 to 10 minutes of actual play. You got a lot of time to go find a blanket in that shit. We don't have that option for soccer, okay? We don't. So all these people who thought, oh, what's the problem? The problem is that kind of weather isn't conducive to a final. You don't want to have another situation where we're going to Kansas City. God bless you guys, but man, that was cold. Toronto was even worse. We saw one of the most horrific injuries in the history of our league when they decided that they had to reward Toronto to get the final, and it was a punishment to anybody that watched it or sat in the stands. That's got to end. That's got to end. I can sell that. I can sell that to anybody that wants to come in June. In Colorado, let's say, take your shirt off and have a couple beers and enjoy the game. That's a final. That's the feel of a World Cup. That's why people love it so much. It's an exhibition to a certain extent with some real stake in there. There's some real skin in the game for some of these countries, and it's a great, great exhibition. Not exhibition, but it's a great competition which shows us the best in the world fighting it out for one thing, and that is to be world champion. I want to make one more point, and this is the part of the show where we're going to integrate a new word or introduce a new word. You've heard of monopoly. How about oligopoly? There it is, oligopoly. That's what it means. Read it, because that's what's happening. Now, in our sports, I should say, what we have created is the end-all, be-all of sports in the United States. We tell people that we're world champions. We tell people that these are the best baseball players on the planet battling it out. It's actually not true. Every time you do that world competition, we come in third or fourth. I think the Netherlands is pretty good, but we're certainly going to get beat by Japan and the Dominican Republic. But the point is that we've created this corporate world where the narrative is that the best of the best all play the sport in the United States, whether it be the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, or the NFL. All of these sports is the pinnacle of your career. If you go there, it doesn't get any better than that, which is a narrative that we've created over time by monopolizing the sport. And that's not something that we should really frown upon. It's happening everywhere. It's in the United States. It's kind of the way we do things, if you think about it. I like that movie, You Got Mail. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Meg Ryan has this cool little bookstore, and then Tom Hanks and the big corporate world, piles in, puts her out of business, and we just accept that. You just get eaten up by the blob when it arrives, and that's the way we handle sports. We don't actually engage in competition; we run from it. We basically create the narrative that we're the best, and in order to be the best, you have to play here. We'll never have that option in soccer. Our football will never have the ability to say that this is the best league in the world. If you are thinking that way, you need to change the way you think. You are delusional. There's too many factors here. And whether it's the Spanish, the Germans, the Italians, the English, it doesn't matter. The sport will always be about competition. And the competition of who's the best club in the world, we try to settle that through the World Club Cup. But the truth is, it really is about perception of reality and a constant competition that happens everywhere in all these different countries. And all of those countries that I'm talking about are doing one thing that we are not, trying to be a better soccer nation, trying to be a better footballing nation is what I was trying to say. We are simply trying to facilitate soccer. We have married ourselves to mediocrity. We are not engaging in real competition or a league that is all about sporting merit. The winner is actually going to be a culmination of the organization getting everything right, almost everything right. Nobody's perfect, but it will take a whole lot of the luck out of this. And we can't hang our hat on luck anymore. I get it that we think that we're doing so well with all these teams and these stadiums, but the soccer isn't there yet. And there's a way to fix that. Fix the schedule. At some point, implement promotion and relegation, and you will see for the first time real football. I guess the point I need to make with the USL, and I've got receipts on this as well. I've actually submitted my presentation to them 8 years ago. Here we go again, right? Me being bitter about. I don't care. They're actually trying to do the right thing. They're trying to implement a league and fight for Division I status and have it settled on sporting merit. They're having a lot of tripwire. They have not figured out the television component yet. They still are not on board with changing the schedule, which will be a learning process for a bunch of people who are doing this for the first time and basically replicating or duplicating exactly what Major League Soccer did many years ago when it took them 30 years to figure out that they needed to change the model in order to change their fortune. All right, that is it for today. I'm going to handle a couple of text messages that I'm just receiving now. I'm reading them. These are people who have responded to last week's podcast, so let me address that now. All right, this is my favorite time in the day and or for this show in general, excuse me, as I read, but this is Wade Flowers. Hi, Wade. I'm going to respond to your question/statement, a couple of question marks in there, but I'm going to do my best to try and answer it in a way that will suffice. Wade Flowers, 6978. That sounds like my wife's and my birth years. All right. I am sorry, but why is the system of selling players from mid or lower clubs to the rich clubs a better system? Good question. There is an answer to that. Second question, what is the point of being a Brighton or a West Brom fan when the club sells its best players and you don't have a chance for competing for the championship? We don't say championship because it sounds like if you're Brighton and West Brom, you might end up in the championship if you don't get it right. Look, these are really, really honestly great questions. What is the point? That's your club. You're going to support your club. What do you want for this club or this company to do? You want it to function. That's more important than anything else. Winning games and having the opportunity to compete is never going to be easy. What do you want? You want it to continue to be easy? What do you want to do for these players? Do you want to say, all right, we can't afford you anymore because you're just too good for this club, but you want them to stay? I mean, do your 24-year-old kids live in your basement? I'm just curious. Maybe that's the way you do things over there. Oh, I can't withstand the idea of you leaving. No, the clubs have to function as a business. Their other responsibility is to create new opportunities for younger players to replace them. Not only can they be successful when some of their better players are on their way out the door, and is it extremely profitable for them? The point is money. I mean, there's a buddy of mine, Charlie Stilitano, used to do a show with a guy that you may or may not remember, Giorgio Canaglia. Was the number 9 that played for the New York Cosmos and was the only guy that had audacity to tell Pelé to pass him the damn ball. And he was great in his own right. But he used to say, follow the money, moron. That's not me calling you a moron. That's me quoting somebody else. So let's get that right. Okay, Wade, I'm not having a go at you, but I understand your plight. The business of football is always going to be a business. And under these circumstances, the teams that are able to compete and able to do something remarkable, Leicester City did it about, almost 10 years now. That was an amazing story. Look at where some of those players ended up. Some of them only, if you have Kante, who actually moved on to go to Chelsea, and that was, just by the way, that guy won everything from the Europa League to the Champions League to the World Cup to the Euros to the EPL twice. One of the most amazing careers. And he was a very humble 5'6" guy who just kind of got overlooked as all the other superstars did their business. But he had a remarkable career. The point of all of that is, what's the point and if it's Brighton and West Brom, West Brom obviously went down. Brighton is in. What does West Brom want more than anything else in the world right now? They want to put a good product on the field to make their fans proud. By accomplishing promotion, they will get that. Now, the bigger challenge will be staying in the league, which is in its own right an accomplishment like no other. Like this year, for example, in the EPL, the 3 teams that came up are going straight back down. And it's the same as it was the year prior to that. So that's probably maybe in the realm of a trend that you're seeing right now, a problem for you. But the point is always to do just exactly what I just said. Make your fan base proud and be the best team that you possibly can. In order to pay for new players and or better players, sometimes the guys going out the door are the best thing that ever happened. You sell a player for $80 million, for example, and you might be able to invest that in 3 new projects who might be worth $80 million in their own right. Are you doing the math? That's how the business works. It's a great question, but there is a point to it. And the point is a valid one. All right, the second one comes from David Day. I just think you don't like me, but that's okay. I really don't care if you don't like me. Eric finally said the quiet part out loud. The whole concept of a league is about your country being a better soccer nation. There's a line of demarcation here. For real fans of leagues, it's club over country. People like Eric think that everything should serve the national team, even at the expense of the league and clubs. All right, so I understand this point maybe better than most. Some people even go so far as to say, why don't you just go move to Europe, Eric? This place isn't for you. Which is actually something that's not the first time I've heard it. Don't kid yourself. I'm looking into a Dutch passport right now for my kids because I believe that is a better environment for them to become better soccer players. However, it is not the league's responsibility, but let me ask you in a different way. I don't know what your nationality is, but when we watch the Olympics, one of the things that we're very proud of is that we usually are pretty good at the 4x4 400. And the reason why we're very proud of that is because we're American. And we're not really celebrating where these people came from. It's just the fact that we are completely dominant, or used to be, in that race. And it was a great moment to wave the flag and to be proud of the United States. And we always do it every time. It's all about the gold medals. And it's where are we? And we get disappointed if we're not leading that race or somebody else has managed to get their act together and have better athletes than us. I've always said this, in my world, America has always prided itself at having the best athletes on the planet in every single sport across the board, except for soccer. Now, why is that when it comes to soccer? I mean, soccer is it a sport just for kids, or is it this foreign game enjoyed only by the rest of the world? There's multiple arguments to that. But, at the end of the day, if you want to keep these guys there, and you want to force them to continue to play for the club that they're at and challenge their loyalty and say, well, you're not doing what's best for this club, they're in a tough spot, especially if they're, if some of the money that they can make. We see it all the time in other sports, which is why, David Day, I'm challenging you to answer the question, why don't you feel this way about other sports? I can tell you why. Because those fucking competitions don't exist. They don't. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs or the Philadelphia Eagles, you did it. It's not like you're going to be, the only chance you're going to be called world champion is if you win the NFL. Nobody else in the world is putting together a football team to play against the best Americans, are they? It's just not happening. So maybe this whole concept is a bit foreign to you, but in this sport of soccer, being the best soccer nation is important to all of us. And it creates a sense of pride, not embarrassment, that allows us to have hope that we can get better. Coming in 4th in a World Cup, coming in 6th at a World Cup. It's not just, hey, we did well in the competition. There's the idea and the hope that maybe you will be able to win the World Cup someday. And only a very few countries have ever won it, and only a very few still think they can. It's a valid question. It's not my overall belief, but the concept of our country getting better through our league is not a novel one. Everybody else in this world thinks of it that way. So maybe you're the outlier here. Sorry. All right, a little bit on the news front on Unleashed this week. MLS Next has decided to come up with a new concept that they are sharing with everybody, that the results are no longer necessary. especially at the youth level, at U14, 15, U16 games, will not be decided on, or at least they won't post the results. We'll never know that stuff. I don't know where this came from. I don't know what they were thinking, but if I hope I'm not alone in voicing my opinion towards the individuals who have decided to create this kind of mechanism, which teaches our kids that winning doesn't matter. Winning does matter. Finding solutions to win the game is the whole part that we are missing. I understand what's happening at these levels. I've played in these games. I've coached in these games with a group of 16-year-old boys against the likes of some of the academy teams that are over there with their 6 coaches and 5 tablets and analyzing every move and creating metrics and these algorithms that they can determine whether a player is good or not. No one's using their eyes anymore. And apparently we don't need scoreboards. This is great. All these high schools out there, don't build a scoreboard. Score doesn't matter. Oh wait, they're not letting you be involved anyway. Okay, scrap that.